Hello everyone and welcome to episode 55 of the Spawn Point podcast. Today I am joined by none other than Andy.
Hello!
And we have an air horn as well. Steve was going to be here but his internet's down and Epi couldn't make today's episode. Today we're talking about season passes, DLC, microtransactions, Microsoft's Xbox upgrade plan that is to be speculated. Something's going on there. And before we talk about that, you can also listen to this on iTunes. Maybe you're already listening to it on iTunes. There we go. I said it correctly. If you are listening to it on iTunes, be sure to subscribe on there. Leave a rating. We really appreciate it. If you're listening to it on the YouTube version, then you get to see our beautiful, or maybe not so beautiful, faces. And of course, this episode is sponsored by Virtual Gladiators. You can get 10% off Minecraft servers with the code VECTRA. It's also sponsored by CD Keys. You can get some cheap PC and console games from there, like The Division, which is £34.90 at the moment on there, which is around $50. But I don't know how many games you've been playing this week, Andy, if many at all.
I have not played anything. Anything new, no, nothing.
Apart from Fallout 4, which is probably... How is your journey on Fallout 4 going so far, for people who haven't seen the streams?
It is going well for anyone that hasn't been watching the streams or hasn't played Fallout. This probably won't mean much to you, but I've just gotten to Diamond City and done part of Nick Valentine's stuff, and I did a couple of his side quests and a couple of the side quests in Diamond City as well.
So what's your running? You're planning to do some of the side quests and the missions, or are you focusing more on just doing all the sides?
Well, I played through it on the Brotherhood of Steel route the first time, like off the stream. So I'm going to go down some other route, but I want to try and explore a bit more and do some more side quests. But at the moment, I seem to be lacking in pretty much everything, including ammo.
Oh.
And it's not going very well.
I thought you were the kind of guy to loot everything, though. So surely they should be dropping ammo.
I was, but I got into like a super mutant's lair, and that pretty much took every last bullet. And it got to the stage where I was getting ready to throw toasters at them just to survive.
I think the quick tip I can give is always the ammo's always listed as the first thing you loot. So if you quickly just go grab that, like the most useful stuff is always at the top, and then all the useless stuff is at the bottom. So you've got the raider armor that you don't always need, and just other sort of bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think one of my main issues was trying to use landmines to set as traps, but accidentally forgetting that I didn't have a grenade set and lobbing landmines in front of me when I was meant to chuck a grenade and having people blow up in my face. It's been going well.
You could say that. I that's an assumption to make. I mean, yeah.
Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT. Some more Fallout streams if you want to come and join twitch.tv/extra gaming.
Yeah, nice little plug slipped in there. So it's just Fallout for you this week.
Just Fallout. I've got a couple of other games that I've been meaning to try, but I haven't got around to it yet. I've just been too busy doing other stuff.
I think for me, it's mostly just The Division. It's slowly taken over my life, it seems.
Division games.
I did it, obviously I streamed it that one time. If you watch that stream, I've kind of jumped massively from that, because in that I would think I was about level 7. I'm now max level, and I've done, I would say, pretty much everything I can do other than the replayable daily missions and like PvP Dark Zone stuff.
What is the max level non-Dark Zone?
So it's level 30, and once you reach 30, it doesn't your XP doesn't continue going. I think though, the thing I think they're going to do is they're either going to add kind of what they have for Elder Scrolls Online. We have veteran ranks, or because I can see people reaching level 30 very quickly. People already have. One guy did it in 15 hours. Now that's not the normal time to do it. If you just did all of the story missions and you stormed through and did it on hard and just did everything that gave you XP, like the most XP really quickly, you probably could get there quite fast. But it's that same thing with Splatoon where we were talking about what everyone's reached the level cap, what are they going to do? And they're either going to probably do one or two things. They're going to increase the level cap, the regular level cap, or they're going to add these kind of prestige veteran ranks where people can prove, you know, hey, I thought a good way that they could do it is you unlock like a specific item of clothing or specific weapon skin when you reach a certain like veteran or legendary level, to go, hey, look, to kind of show off to people. They can see that, oh, look, he's got that gold skin, so he
Gold
must be
skin
on his no, not his face,
quiet.
like on his like on his gun, not on
Right,
his
okay.
not in his face.
Just to see all these shiny Division people running around in the dark.
So
zones.
I have been playing a lot of Division, and I've really been enjoying that. Been playing on PC. What I would recommend with the Division is, from my viewpoint, it's okay to play on your own, but the fun is really to be had with, if you can find a group of friends. Maybe if you go into the game on your own, there is a matchmaking system on there. I've tested it out a few times, and it's a bit hit and miss for me. But because I've been playing in a group the whole time, I need to sort of check that more extensively. But if you're going into it playing on your own, try and find a group of people to play with, either from the game that you don't know and then play with them a lot, or find some friends to play with and play with them, because that's the biggest thing I can recommend to improve your experience. Play with at least one friend, and it will make so much more of a difference, because you'll have a better time in sort of being more strategic. It's very difficult on your own to do some of the harder missions because you can just get flanked from everywhere. And the thing that I do appreciate about this game is that the AI is fairly smart. I know we've said in the past that it could be derpy in the beta and stuff. By the way, on the topic of the beta, I feel as if Ubisoft may have watched our live stream highlights, because they fixed the floating laptops.
I really did that. That's good.
The first thing I checked was I ran over there and I went up to the laptops. Most people do normal things. I went up there and they were fixed. So they fixed lots of weird little glitches and things. There's still a few. I've had some friends fall through the map on odd occasions. I haven't had that happen to me yet. I've also, people have been supposedly queuing up, but the people that have been queuing up at the beginning of the game, basically, there's a character collision thing where if you run into a player, you can't go through them. But if someone like blocks a doorway, if you sprint for like 2 seconds, it will part your and you sprint against them, you can pass through them. So those people queuing up, all they have to do is sprint for like 2 seconds. They could run through all of them.
Apparently, they patched out the laptop bug, right? Not bug. Issue at the start where everyone was queuing, like Queue Simulator 2016.
But like you could always pass through people. I never had that, because when I first, maybe because I played at midnight, when I loaded the game up, there was lots of people in there, but there was no queues, and no one was like. The funny thing is though, when you come to loot and you're with your friends, it's like, right, let's form an orderly queue. So you open the chest and then you step out the way and the next person goes up. So it's a bit realistic in the fact like, oh, I'm done. And then like I would do that sometimes, and you'll go to your friend, hey, you're jumping in the queue. Get to the back, because it blocks them out if you jump in.
Okay.
So I haven't had that. Black screens is a thing that some people complained about. If you are getting black screens, the thing I recommend to do is put it on windowed full screen. It should fix it for you. It fixed it for me. I haven't gone back to full screen since then, but I had this problem of when I went to full screen, it would crash my game. But there's no difference between windowed full screen and full screen, really.
Well, I mean, windowed full screen can like knock the game a bit.
If
like,
you're not on that window.
Delicately. No,
is it?
It's just generally playing it, yeah.
So maybe I haven't noticed that because I've sort of been playing on Ultra, and I've sort of had like smooth, always above 60. But yeah, I've really enjoying that game. Played 64 hours, and it's been out since less than a week. It's not for everyone, is what I'll say. The reason why I've played a lot of it is because obviously, if you look at how much I've played of Borderlands and then you look at the Division, you'll go, it makes sense that I would have played that much, because those kind of games sort of appeal to me. And it's like other people that like Destiny, is like the people like Destiny because they go, I found this rare. It's that whole kind of appeal of random loot and like the dice roll effect of getting something that you don't normally get that's really rare and stuff like that. It's like trading cards. When you get a trading card, you go, oh, it's a really rare one, and you don't get it very often. And you know, it's like killing an enemy is like opening a packet of Pokemon cards, and then when you look in there, you go, oh, I got a shiny. It's like that's like that in the game.
A very bullet spongy pack of Pokemon cards.
Yeah, but the thing is, like the bullet sponginess of it, I almost think it would it wouldn't work as well if it was just like a 2-shot kill, because then all the statistics and all of the gun stats, it's like, well, what's the point of me having this gun if all the other guns can just 2-shot or 5-shot an enemy anyway? Like, there needs to be, because you're always doing like focusing on DPS, and it's a very it's weird, the game, because it's like a combination of MMO, it's RPG elements, like third-person shooter. It's like it's so many different genres at once that it's hard to put a pin on. If someone said, well, what exactly kind of game is it? It's weird. At its core, it's a looter shooter type game, but it has some, it's more MMO than Destiny could be considered, because in the Dark Zone PvP area where you can kill other players and group up with them and see them, you can have like 20 people around you, or like, you know, like certain amounts of people around you, more than Destiny, where the only time you can have that really is in certain like safe zones or in multiplayer teams, like 8 versus 8 or whatever. So it's a bit more MMO in that aspect. But I think the reason why I've been liking this so much is just the prospect of all that loot and progressing my character, and you get so obsessed with stats. You're like, oh, I need to boost my armor rating. Oh, there's so many stats. It's like, oh, my health regeneration, my armor rating, my scavenging, my DPS of my gun, and having all these stats. Like you have all these like statistics of like, okay, you're going to be like a tank healer, so focus on boosting your health. I'm going to be a really sort of, as they call it, squishy DPS dealer, so you've got low health but really high damage, and you complement each other's skills doing that.
Have they made the well, hello voice, have they made the drops any more interesting? Like, because in the beta it was pretty much just like, oh, this gun is slightly better than that one, or this piece of clothing is slightly better than that. Do they give you any other abilities or anything like that?
So yeah, so I think after the extensive amount I've played the game, I fully understand how the stats work and what other guns are better. Certain guns will, like, sometimes guns will just boost everything because they'll be good. Other times they'll have an effect on reducing, like you could have a gun that has high DPS but then has, but it'll say like, oh, DPS is high for a sniper, but then the rounds per minute are low, so you have to take everything into account. But there are these additional things on the guns. So every sort of rarity, you've got grey, which is like common, green, which is uncommon, blue, which is rare, purple, which is like very rare, and then gold, which is legendary. And as you go along, so blue loot has a talent slot, and a talent is a thing where it gives you like a benefit. So critical hits will do 10% more damage when on less than 30% health or something. Or this talent says when you've your like fire rate's increased when you get like halfway through your ammo clip, or like just little things like that, little perks on those guns attached. And as you go to purple, you get 2 of those talents. On legendary, you get 3. So it's like you've got all of the damage dealing and all those things, and then you obviously have all the mods you can put. So like I'll put a scope on here that will raise my damage per second, but it will reduce my like close rate. It will affect my close range. Or if I go, oh, I've increased my magazine size, but my rounds per minute is low. So everything has like a counter effect almost. So you have to kind of like
yeah, fair enough.
Like, so your DPS is decreased if you have a larger magazine size because it takes longer to reload, type thing. You know, so if you've got a bigger magazine,
if you've got a bigger magazine, then like
it's gonna. So like an LMG, for example, if you're going, where an SMG like that.
It's just like the mag is that much bigger. It's like what?
Yeah. So so there is a lot of depth. Like, I'm surprised by the amount of depth that I didn't realize at the beta as to like all of the equipment and weapon. And then you can put like modifications on your armor as well, and then that affects things. And then you have skills which are like things that you can use, like just times, like they're on cooldowns, and you can go, oh, I'm gonna heal my group in this area, and you throw that down. Or you can throw a seeker mine that rolls on the ground, and like it's like a seeker mine. And then you have talents, which are other sort of passive abilities, and then you have perks, which are permanent. You don't have to have a certain number to pick from. They just unlock perks that are permanent passive abilities throughout the game. So that's like basically the roundup. But there's, you know, rather than go into all the stats of like all the intricate details, the if you like Borderlands, or you like Destiny, you like those kind of games, you're more than likely to like The Division. It's not a game for everybody. There is a sense of story. It's not the same kind of... It's not like the kind of story you'd probably get in like a campaign mode from like a Battlefield game or a Call of Duty game, where it's like a strong narrative that you follow through. Like, it is there, but most of it you'll learn from the collectibles, which actually does help because it makes the collectibles a bit more worthwhile, a bit more interesting, because you're learning stories about more and more different people that are affected by this virus, and what they've done and all these different people and all the factions and how they work together. So if finding loot sounds fun to you, if all this stuff sounds fun to you, of like you know, you like grinding through MMOs, you like getting like rare loot and sort of trying to get that, and you like the PvP aspect, maybe you played the beta and you enjoy the PvP, it's just as enjoyable here. They still need to do some balancing for the Dark Zone, but other than that, I can say overall I think it's a really good game. For it ticks all the boxes for what I want from a sort of shooter.
Yeah,
it fills that gap as well that I've like Borderlands 3 is not coming out anytime soon, and it fills that kind of void for me for now. Like, kind of keeps me entertained.
Yeah, but I suppose in a more serious manner than the Borderlands series.
Yeah,
was.
It basically, in a really kind of bastardized sort of summary, like version of what this game is like. It's like a realistic, more serious Borderlands, pretty much, in third person. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really been playing anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at picking up the intro pack to Hitman, but I haven't done that yet, so I can't comment on anything. I watched a couple of videos on it and thought, actually, yeah, kind of enjoyed the beta a bit.
I think it's the tutorial that kind of doesn't really sell itself as well as it should for the rest of the game, because it's very more on rails, there's less things you can do from what I've been told. Like, there's supposedly 12 different ways to approach the tutorial, but like over 80 for the Paris levels and things.
So I'm going to look at that. It's 11 quid, so it doesn't seem that much.
Yeah.
But that obviously isn't all of the content, because you can buy more content, which I think...
If you want to buy in advance, yeah.
Segues us.
Yeah, I guess that does really well segue, because, you know, the Division has a season pass. The Hitman you can buy in advance, as technically is a season of content.
Even though IO Interactive believes that DLC season passes are not good for gamers.
Even though that technically is the model. But anyway, let's talk about everything to do with season passes, DLC, microtransactions. I think we might have talked about DLC in the past a little bit. Maybe like day one DLC, I think it was. In one of the other episodes, we've previously discussed this type of thing around the time Watch Dogs was coming out, I believe. But it might be changing gradually, or it might be taking a different form of, I think, based on what's been happening with Ubisoft and even with EA, they're at least experimenting with different kind of ways to approach monetizing their games further beyond that price of like £40, $60. Like, for context, Far Cry Primal, usually Far Cry games have a season pass. I think they've had day one DLC. They've had microtransactions, I believe, maybe. Far Cry Primal doesn't have any of that. It has no season pass. It has no launch day DLC. I don't know if DLC is planned for it, but there's also no microtransactions as well. What you see is what you get, basically. Like, you pay that price and you get everything.
I feel like with like that Far Cry Primal, it's more of like the Blood Dragon type of Far Cry game. It's not one of the numbered ones, and I don't believe like Blood Dragon.
It's not one of the numbered ones, but even Ubisoft have said themselves that this is not like a Blood Dragon. I think even in terms of the size of the game as well and the amount of content, it's more, they're trying to say this is a game that stands on its own two legs. Like Far Cry Blood Dragon was basically like a spin-off from 3. Far Cry Primal isn't really a spin-off from 4. Like, it's interestingly uses the same height map, but the map itself is completely different. But that's beside the point. Like, it's marketed as a full game. They believe it to be treated as a full game. And like the division, in terms of the Division, that has like small skin packs that you can buy. I think there's like 2 or 3. Now, I don't know whether those skin packs are what you can get in the Gold Edition, and whether Ubisoft are going, okay, if you bought the Division game and you didn't buy the Gold Edition, you can buy these skin packs afterwards, so you don't have to buy the entire Gold Edition again. Because I'm sure the Gold Edition does come with some skin packs. I don't know if it's those ones, but it does come with a few.
Apparently, there's going to be some £3.99 little DLC packs that are the cosmetic things.
So, compared to like the traditional form of microtransactions, and what I mean by that is like you've got Rainbow Six Siege is a perfect example where it was like, I think you have rainbow credits or something, and it's like, oh, you could buy. It's really odd because Rainbow Six Siege came out the very end of last year, and that has microtransactions galore in the fact of you can boost your XP, and the more people that are spending real money boosting their XP in your team, the more your XP boosts. And I remember seeing that and going, that's awful. And I'm glad the Division doesn't have that. Now, okay, these are skin packs, they're cosmetics. You know, it's cool to hate on Ubisoft, but it's not as bad as... It still seems different than what I think a lot of these AAA developers have done in the past, where it's like, you can't buy any of the guns in Division, you can't buy those guns, you can't buy armor, you can't buy anything that gives you an advantage in the game. It is literally impossible to pay to win in this game, because the only thing you can spend money on, like, you have to be good at the game, you have to grind hours and hours to get good stuff, and a lot of it's down to luck. You can't spend money and guarantee yourself success with the game. You can only make yourself look cool, or what you deem to be cool. So I think those kind of things aren't... I don't have as much of an issue with the skin, like the cosmetic microtransactions, if they don't affect the game. I feel like if people want to buy them, that's fine by them, as long as they're not forced down your throat. Like, it never comes on screen and says, you should buy these skin packs. It's just there if you want them. No big deal. I don't know how you feel about like this cosmetic sort of aspect of things, where it's like, do you want a camo? You can buy that if you want, but you could... It's no big deal if you... It's not going to affect the game.
Yeah, it's not really that big a deal, is it? Like, if it's like, hey, you can buy this extra thing to make yourself look a bit cooler, then okay, fine. I mean, if it's on a full price game, then I think it's kind of less okay. But I think it's towards the acceptable end.
It's definitely an improvement. It's an easy thing to say, like, compared to what we've seen in the past, especially like from 2013. We've sort of had this, you know, EA and like other companies, we just had this sort of fascination with microtransactions, and it was sort of almost in every game, and it still is in games. But it's more a fact of like, is it? I don't know. Like, here's the thing as well. Garden Warfare 2 is an EA title. Plants vs Zombies, Garden Warfare 2. That has an update, because that does have microtransactions with the game. They just didn't make them available at launch. Now, technically, you could glance that at the fact that they didn't technically have launch day DLC, because it was 9 days after. So make of that what you will. But the fact still stands about season passes that there isn't one for Garden Warfare 2. Now,
no, but I mean, the microtransactions are a in-game currency.
That is different. Yeah, it's different for Garden Warfare 2, and this is why Ubisoft are like trying to separate themselves from... They don't want to be classed in what Garden Warfare 2 has, which is the type of microtransactions which are where you go spend $4 to get 500 plant points, whatever they're called in Garden Warfare 2.
Coins or something.
Yeah, you purchase them and you get an in-game currency. Like, that is something that Ubisoft obviously want to stray away from. I guess the real question is do you think that like there's like a negative reaction that some gamers, or a lot of gamers, have about microtransactions? Is actually the developers are listening and it's actually affecting them, and they're going, well, maybe we should rethink our sort of monetization model, because people really hate the fact when we have microtransactions in our games. That being said, they have been hugely successful. Like Halo 5 has microtransactions, which are like pretty much for the most part cosmetics as well. Like, it's not like you don't get a permanent sort of thing that you unlock that no one else can get or anything. And that's been really successful in terms of making the money. But on the other hand, you get these other companies trying to stay away from the word microtransactions. So like, do you think that a lot of gamers' response to microtransactions, that being a negative one, is actually making a difference or starting to make one?
I think it's making a bit of a difference. Like there was actually something quite interesting I read like just before we started this actually, and this is from sort of mid-February. Apparently, Konami has decided on the PC version of Metal Gear Solid 5 in Japan, the mother base coins that you can buy for real money will have a 6-month expiry date on them, even if you purchase them.
So you have to purchase them and then spend them within 6 months, otherwise you lose those points.
Otherwise, you can get them in game,
Do you know what?
like by grinding.
Do you know what's depressing about Metal Gear Solid, just for a second, is it's a great game, but then Konami just have to Konami it, and they have insurance for your mother base. Like
insurance,
like it's stuff like that makes me not really want a Metal Gear without Kojima, because it just shows us a little peek into the window of what's possible. It's like a nightmare that you don't want to see.
Just trying to ground the IP into the dust, aren't they?
Yeah.
But luckily, that's only in Japan and on the Steam version. But who knows whether that trend will expand to any of the other versions, or like to any other people. Because it seems to be going in the two directions, doesn't it? Where you've got the sort of Division's way of doing it. Like it's not going to be microtransactions in game. It's going to be aesthetic DLC, and then you've got this end of it where it's like, we've got microtransactions, and you got to spend them in the 6 months. Otherwise, you got to spend more money to get them back. So, there is definitely a divergence going on here.
Do you think maybe possibly it is that fact of like these Ubisoft, EA, maybe other companies will start doing it, just experimenting with trying to find what people go, they don't want to get rid of microtransactions completely, but they want to find that kind of area where it's acceptable. You know, that we're talking about, like, it's the skin packs thing is on the border of almost being sort of more acceptable, and maybe they're trying to play around with, because video games are very expensive to make nowadays. They're extremely expensive sort of to develop, and you have to think about all the people that they have to pay, all the people employed to make these massive blockbuster titles, and then they have to make that money somehow. For them, selling a game at, like, and I'm not defending some of these ridiculous microtransaction models or pay to win sort of schemes, but they're trying to figure out how can we make more, like, because selling a game, when you look at games priced, I bought a PlayStation 2 game that cost me the same price as a PlayStation 4 game would cost me now. The prices haven't really changed for the base price of a game, but they're becoming more and more expensive to make. So they're like, well, how are we going to figure out how to make more funds? Like their financial sort of departments are like, well, we need to, raise more funds. We need to have better profit margins. And they're trying to figure out how to do that. And I think they went blind in when they first started microtransactions to go, oh, you can pay to level up. And people are like, we don't want that. And now they're like, well, let's test the waters with little things. And it feels like Far Cry Primal is a good game to test the waters with, because like you said, a lot of people sort of see that as like not a main numbered game. They see it as a spin-off, and they could sort of play, even though they're marketing it as a full game, and whether it is a spin-off or not, or what it is sort of debatable. It seems like a good opportunity for them to see, well, let's see the reception we get, and let's see if people notice how big of a difference it makes not having a season pass. And maybe they'll look at sales of that and go, the sales were a lot better when we didn't have a season pass or a launch day DLC. Maybe we should try and do something else instead of that. Like, is that?
I mean, I'm assuming, like, right at the start, because these, I think it was either 2010, 2011, we started seeing sort of microtransactions start appearing, and the AAA companies like latched onto the fact that these sort of free-to-play games where we're using all of these in-game currencies and like, hang on, we can make something here, and then I imagine they're just like, right, we'll just go fucking full blown guns in, like just dual wield like rocket launchers or something, and just go guns blazing and try the worst case possible scenario and see will people actually accept this?
I think.
And
sorry, yeah, go on.
I was saying, and now they're going, well, maybe not. They're not really accepting as much as we thought, and they're trying to pull back a bit. Although, with that said, like gamesindustry.biz, it said EA's Ultimate Team earning, which is like microtransaction, is earning them $650 million a year.
Yeah, so this is the part where I find interesting is that we have this sort of experimentation with the sort of the whole how all these season passes, DLC, all that stuff, all that content is sort of handled, and it's interesting because we have this huge backlash of Star Wars Battlefront is a good example. Oh, you've stripped out half the game, you've put it in a season pass, the game's really shallow. This you can buy emotes, and it's like, oh, well, why would they all these things? EAR, and then yet the game sold really well, and then you have all these other games, like I said, Halo, FIFA. There's a reason why FIFA still has its Ultimate Team from all these years and has you have buying packs. It even ties in with the whole Division. You know, I was saying a minute ago about how the Division, in a lot of ways, when you get loot, is like opening a pack and going, oh, I can't wait to see what I get. It's like that, but you're paying real money, and with the Ultimate Teams, it's like digital trading card packs, really. People are obviously buying these things, people obviously want this, but then people are still complaining. Obviously, it might be different people, but it's like the casual audience, supposedly, will be more accepting of it, but then the more hardcore gamers, they're against the idea completely, and so you get the mainstream kind of overtaking the other people who are just complaining about it. Maybe that's what's going on, but I don't know what to take from it, in the fact that, is this just a experimentation phase? Is this the start of something different? Or is it just that they like didn't have the time to, like, I don't know, they couldn't be bothered, didn't have the time, I don't know, something like that. Is it the beginning of a change? Like, is this something that we're going to start to see, like, less and less of the microtransactions and stuff? Or
definitely in the games that I've been playing, there seems to be like less microtransactions, but more of a trend of saying we're going to have a season pass in the game. So like stuff like we were saying, Rainbow Six is going to have a season pass. Then did I say Rainbow Six? I meant the Division.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like Fallout 4, they were like upping their price in their season pass because the content that they're going to bring out is going to be amazing.
Just on the topic of Fallout, they obviously they announced they had a season pass without even before realizing how much content they're actually going to do. And then when they had the content, like, well, actually we're going to do more than this. Like, yeah. Oh, we're going to have to increase the price. It's like, it shows they didn't really have a plan of what they were going to do. They just put a price tag. And I'm sure lots of companies do it. They put a price up that says, you can buy our season pass for $29.99. And then they have no idea what's going to be in that. The consumer has no idea. And if the people making it have no idea what's in it, how are you know, that's risky. I have no problem with season passes in the fact that it's kind of useful. And it's kind of neat that you can buy a almost like a bundle where you get all of the DLC wrapped in for a discounted price. Now, it depends how you go about it. If you go, there's nothing wrong with a $60 season pass. Let me finish. If you can justify, if what you've got in there is worth $60, you can justify it, and it's really good.
If you know at the time of purchase that my $60 will get me X, Y, and Z content. If it's just like, you can buy the season pass for $60 and we'll tell you what you can get later, wink. Isn't that pretty much like early accessing DLC?
Yeah, I think the problem isn't the season passes aren't a problem. It's when they announce them that's the problem. Like announcing it before the game comes out. Some games, they've talked more about the DLC and the season pass than the actual game before the games come out. And it's like they're promoting the DLC and season passes more than the base game. And you're like, what are you doing? I think we need to don't developers need to start mentioning season passes once they have something to talk about, and they have like a year down the line. You can pre-order. You can still pre-order the season pass, but it's going to be coming out, I don't know, in a month's time. And this is all the content we've been working on over the last year since the game's come out. And then you go, well, okay, it's not a bad problem to plan out DLC, like post content after the game comes out, because it depends if there's loads and loads in the game, and you go, we can't fit it in this time schedule, we're going to have to put it afterwards. You can still say, let's do this stuff after the game comes out, but announcing it before we have a solid idea, announcing, oh, give us money, we'll figure it out later on, is like backing a Kickstarter where you don't know the project you're backing. It's like, I'm making a watch. Back me on Kickstarter. I haven't made the watch. You don't know what it looks like, but please back me. It'll be awesome. It's a revolutionary
watch that's going to change the face of watches. Oh shit! I had something there. I'm hoping like it's not going to happen. Hopefully not. Don't make this happen. But the season pass turned into, you buy the game and you can buy the season pass and you can get free access to your game for 6 months, and then you have to buy another season pass to regain access to your game.
That's what I'm really worried about at the Division, because they've announced that you get 3 expansions with this season pass. And it's like, is this a season pass for the first year of content? Because they've announced, like, they've got all these free updates, and I appreciate that they'll be doing free updates. They've got 3 expansions. Okay, fair enough. You've mentioned to you've announced your season pass, and you've mentioned to people that it's very vague, but you've mentioned what people are going to get and when. Like, you're going to get expansion this month, then this month. That's better than nothing. It's still not perfect, but I'm sure they've said somewhere, I think they plan to like do more expansions after the first year of content. This is a game that they're going to continually support, like Destiny, continually support. But I can't imagine for the season pass you're going to get more than those 3 expansions. Look at what Bethesda are doing with their season pass. You know, you get maybe 3 expansions at most, but we don't know yet. But you're not going to get too many of them. So for the Division, are you going to buy a season pass and then a year later they go, here's the year 2 season pass? I don't know. And it gets messy. So maybe season passes don't... It depends. For expansions, they should just sell them as and when. Like, here's an expansion, sell that. But if you know the beginning and end of a season pass, it's the problem with season passes is when they go, we've done even more content than expected. I know you bought the season pass, which should give you access to all the content, but you're going to have to get that. You're going to have to pay for that because it doesn't fall under the season pass. You should have a beginning and end and go, well, this is all the stuff we're going to do. Let's include all of it in the season pass. And if I buy a season pass, I want to know that by spending that money, I'm getting access to all of the DLC that ever comes out for it. That's kind of what I want.
I think the only season passes that I've ever bought have been stuff like Telltale games, where it's like, okay, you buy the season pass for the game, which is 5 or 6 episodes long. That's what you're going to get. They're the only ones that I can think of actually ever just going, okay, I'm going to buy the season pass for this game, because they've set out exactly or the story's going to be this long. Okay, maybe you're taking a bit of a gamble with the fact that the later parts of the story might be absolute garbage, but you kind of know roughly with a Telltale game, you're going to get roughly 2 hours per part of the story, and it's going to be like the same type of, you're going to pick choices. It's going to be this very sort of freedom-ish type thing that then goes back to a point and it takes away all of your choices. But you know that's what you're going to get, and I don't mind that type of way forward, as long as they keep up their way of doing things.
Just on the topic of launch day DLC, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like we're seeing that less often, because the last game I can remember, and maybe it's just because I've been blind to it, but Alien Isolation, I remember quite fondly having DLC on day one. I'm sure there have been games after that have had launch day DLC. Maybe I'm just not noticing it, or is it just me? Am I just not seeing this in the store of these launch day DLCs, or is this actually a thing where, because we see season passes all over the place, we see microtransactions all over the industry, But launch day DLC, I don't see as much as we used to. I'm sure that is a thing that is... We see day one patches, but we don't see like, oh, you can buy this DLC on day one as much as we used to.
I think the Rise of the Tomb Raider had it. I can't...
Wow, really?
Definitely, if you pre-ordered the Rise of the Tomb Raider, you got on PC, you got a copy of the Tomb Raider reboot, and I think you got something else. I want to say you got like some extra weapons or
I think okay,
something.
so I think like pre-order. I'm not counting pre-order bonuses. I mean that's a different kettle of fish. But like say an actual story expansion or something like a what you'd consider like more of a DLC and less of like a singular item, like an actual there's like 2 hours of content here. We haven't put that in the main game. We've locked it away. Here's what you can buy on day one, and it's released. I remember Alien Isolation doing it and going, well, and people going, why didn't you just put that in the base game? Like that's already ready. You're just stripping that out, and it's that fact. Maybe actually no, maybe Star Wars Battlefront, but then also they put a lot of stuff in the season. I almost feel free to correct me on this, anyone listening or watching. I almost feel that it seems like the season pass has more content in it for Star Wars Battlefront than the base game actually has. When you look at, like, it has a ridiculous amount of maps compared to what you have in the base game. And I don't know, content is still being stripped out, but it doesn't seem, to some degree, it does feel like things are gradually getting better. I remember a time where, do you remember we had to pay for online passes because developers wanted to stop pre-owned games being a thing, so they gave you a little online code. I think it's especially prominent on consoles. You'd get an online code and you could only redeem it once. So if you bought a pre-owned online game, you couldn't play it online if it's pre-owned because you didn't have an online code. Those died out.
Yeah, which is a good thing. I don't actually ever think I haven't got one, to be honest.
I remember having a few, and then it didn't last as long as microtransactions probably have so far. But I feel that something is changing, and I don't know what, but I feel like we're going to see more and more companies try, not with all of their games, but an odd game every now and again, go, let's try with this game, not announcing the season pass straight away, or let's do microtransactions, but let's do it this way. And it's all going to be down to how we, as gamers, respond to what they do. If it doesn't make any difference, then they're not going to bother doing it anymore. If they see an improvement, they'll go, we need to do less of these microtransactions because we're selling more units in general of the base game. So,
or let's sell a game and then patch in microtransactions later when everyone's already bought it.
Well, they got off it too.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. I mean,
that seems so
9 days after the game comes out, you're like, microtransactions.
That just seems so disingenuous. Like they deliberately did it to get make sure the reviewers are out saying, "Hey, there's no microtransactions in this EA game."
It's so depressing though, because everyone's like, "Oh, EA are finally changing. They're seeing the good ways." It's like Star Wars or something, where like, "Oh, yeah, he's a Jedi. He's a light. Oh no, he's gone back to the dark side." And it's like, why? Everyone was saying such nice things about you, EA, and then 9 days later, you just ruined it.
You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, EA.
You were the chosen one.
You were the chosen. Yeah.
So yeah. Final thought: are we going to see some sort of change with how this all works? It's a headache, but are we going to see some sort of change?
I think we will. I think there'll be a migrating pattern of some kind. Just to they're going to try new things, like to get as much money out of everyone as possible. And
money. Ching,
yeah,
ching.
money. Make it rain. They just want to make it rain in their offices, and I feel like they're going to try different ways and optimize how to get extra money out of people through other content.
Just see how they can get away, how they can still do it and get away with it without pissing people off.
Yeah, and whether that's quality content or not, that's to be seen as well.
So yeah, let us know in the comments. Also, on the last episode of the Spawn Point, you might have noticed that I put a poll where I said I was going to put it, where you could actually, like, on the little side of the video, you could say yes or no to whether VR headsets were overpriced. So that's something I'm going to keep doing for each topic we talk about. I'm going to allow you as the viewer, if you're listening to it on iTunes, you can always go to the YouTube version and quickly just select it on there and pick if you want to. Just so we can kind of try and gauge what everyone else is thinking, and, you know, you have a way to, you know, because other people can then see what you've said, and we can all kind of see the majority of what we all think, and, you know, it's a good way to do it. So I'll do the same thing for here. I'll put a poll in regards to the sort of season pass. I'll put, the question will be for this one, would you like to see season passes gone completely? Or let's say microtransactions gone completely. That's probably a better one. And you say yes, no, it depends. Now, topic 2. The second topic is Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft. What are you doing now? Is the question. It's very interesting because they are doing something with the Xbox One which no one really knows exactly what they're doing. Phil Spencer is saying that basically the consoles need to keep up with PCs, and that they might be sort of releasing more frequently, like console upgrades. It's really weird. Basically, Phil Spencer had an interview with Polygon where he said that Xbox One owners could be offered additional hardware upgrades in the future that allows the console to keep up with emerging and competing technologies. Such a move forward would also suggest an end for new console launches. So instead of having a new console every 7 or 8 years, you have just progressive, like, upgrades to that machine.
Do you reckon he's just seen a Steam box and gone,
we could...
hang on a second.
He did actually say to... I can't remember if I don't think it's in this interview, but he did say somewhere, it's not like I'm going to ship people a screwdriver set and tell them to, like, upgrade their Xbox like that, because he thinks that would just be... Because the problem is that if you have a console, you can't have too much change, because then it's like compatibility issues. And if the game runs terribly on the older Xboxes, like, you imagine basically you're changing the graphics settings on a console and trying to do that to a console gamer, like, oh, you can turn off anti-aliasing, or you can switch on FXAA if you want, and then the console people will be like, what are these things, like, if you could even do that. But the exact quotes of what he said, there's quite a lot that he said. I'll read through it fairly briefly. So basically, he said we can effectively feel a bit more like we see on PC, where I can still go back and run my old Doom and Quake games that I used to play years ago, but I can still see the best 4K games come out, and my library is always with me. So, you know, addressing that sort of backwards, you know, having all your games available on one system. If you have a new console, you have to sort of play those games with one and then the other. Hardware innovation continues while the software innovation is able to take advantage, and I don't have to jump a generation and lose everything that I planned on before. And he went on to say, we look at these other ecosystems out there like mobile, tablet and PC, and we see that they have a very continuous evolution cycle in hardware, whereas between console generations, most of the evolution is making it cheaper and potentially making it smaller. Both are meaningful, but don't make the games play any better. If you look at PC specifically and see the evolution that happens there, there's no reason why consoles can't ride that same curve. I look at the ecosystem that a console sits in, and I think that it should have the capability of more iteration on hardware capability. He says that Sony's doing it with VR, with their sort of PlayStation VR thing for PS4. By adding another box, I don't mean that as a negative, but it's not changing what the core console is about. For consoles in general, it's more important now than it's ever been, because you have so many of these other platforms that are around. Used to be that way when you bought your console, you were way ahead of the price performance curve by so much relative to a PC. But now, PCs are inexpensive and your phones are getting more and more capable. So far it sounds like he's saying smartphones are becoming more of a threat upon the console industry, like in terms of their popularity. PCs are progressively becoming more cheap and more accessible for people, so they're like, right, we need to sort of adapt somehow, it seems. Sorry, were you going to say?
I mean, the way it sounds like it's going to me is like, oh, we're just going to make some add-ons for it, because like there's been consoles in the past that have had that, like the one I remember is the Mega Drive or the Genesis, depending on where you're coming from. Like that had the Sega CD add-on and the 32X add-on to it. Like the Nintendo 64 had the expansion slot. And like I don't think I ever remember many people actually buying stuff for that, and like for the expansion slot.
So you think they're going to do Connect 2.0?
Well, there wasn't really that many games that were out for it, and
Yeah.
especially like the new Nintendo 3DS. Okay, that's slightly beefed up on the graphics, and it's got the extra C stick, but there's only one exclusive game for that at the moment.
But the thing that he says, which makes me question otherwise, is the fact when he says that line about they are doing that about PS4 and VR, they're doing it by adding another box, and that not changing what the core concept is about. So it's sort of, to me that sounds like he wants to change some big aspects of it rather than doing a little add-on.
But even so, if you are adding like extra power to it, then like you will need that add-on to be able to play games that use that extra, like, I don't know, boost in graphics or something, or boost in memory. Or there's going to be a stage where to instead of getting a new console to be able to play the newer games, you are going to need to buy X add-on to go in your Xbox One. And then that'll then it'll turn it more into a modular PC than a console, I think. And people buy consoles for an ease of thing. It's like, I'm going to get this one console. I know all of the games that I can get.
Isn't it the same? Isn't it kind of the same as like having a Steam machine though, where it's like, okay, you can buy all of them, play these games, but you can buy ones that will perform better, and having that as a Microsoft having their own take on that and going. So you have these Steam machines you can pick from, which Steam machines really are like simplified piece. I would love to know if someone's out there who has a Steam machine, because I'd like to ask you why you have one. Not as like why, but more like a what's the word? A curiosity as to like why you decided to buy that, because it's almost like it's a simplified PC, but then it doesn't do a lot of things that PCs do, and it's still quite expensive for the kit that you're getting in those boxes. I looked at the specs, I was like, you could get much better build than that if you didn't do it for a Steam machine. And also the whole thing of Steam OS, you know, when you can have a PC that does all of that and more, and is much more kind of capable and more flexible and accessible. But it kind of makes it more. It does. Maybe they want to do something where you have this Xbox. I don't know, whatever they would. I don't know what they're naming scheduled. Like they're naming
Xbox 2,
Xbox 3. But they could have like Xbox One S for like, you know, like how for
One S.
You know, like how,
it's just gonna go down the Apple model and make it slightly speedier.
Right. You know how Apple every 2 years announce like a new model. All of the iPhones tend to work up to a point when they have the software updates, but they're like, okay, we've announced a new one, it still works, all the other phones still work with that software, this is slightly more powerful, the bits have been changed, and they could go, let's say just for the time being, Xbox One S, and you had Xbox 2, Xbox 2S, I don't know, but something like this to give a good idea. You could maybe see him talking about smartphones. They go, well, maybe we should do like every couple of years. If he's not going to ship a screwdriver set to us and say build it yourself or like upgrade it yourself, they're not going to make the Xbox easily upgradable, the one you've got, but they're going to say you can buy various models. So maybe we'll start to see different models to choose from. So there won't just be one Xbox, there'll be various. The problem is that people hard enough go, well, should I, especially, could you imagine parents trying to buy their kid an Xbox for Christmas and they have like 6 different Xboxes to buy them, and then they're like,
God,
do I want the Xbox or the PlayStation 4? Well, you have this Xbox, this one, and this one. The PS4 has this, and this, and this. And they're like, I just want one he can play his games on. It's like, it's going to still complicate things for some people, and it's going to affect the accessibility probably if they try and go down that route. It's a problem because they obviously feel threatened by all the other like smartphone and PC, and they want to keep up with the times and adapt so they stay relevant. But then you get to a point where, okay, if you're releasing a console every 2 years and I'm buying that, surely I should just buy a PC and keep upgrading. Would you agree that it's better to just buy a PC and gradually upgrade that instead?
Yeah,
rather than keep buying new models, like
if they were to do that and offer like so you know, like they do with these car schemes nowadays, where it's like a buy to rent. So it's like you buy a brand new car, and then like 3 years down the line, you can trade in said car and upgrade to like a newer model, but continue paying on pretty much the same amount that you were before. So if they were like doing it like that, so it's like, okay, so you get an Xbox One this year, and then in 2 years' time you'll be able to get like the Xbox 1.1, and then give you in your old Xbox and just pay us a monthly amount to top it up. I feel like that would almost be a better thing.
You see, it's weird because they're kind of, by doing that, you're like, well, okay, I'm buying these, like the whole reason I'm buying a console is so I don't have to constantly worry about upgrading my system. Like there's a different audience there of people who go, I just want to buy a PS4. And people who aren't into PC gaming, a lot of those people say, I just can't be bothered to keep upgrading my rig and just keep on maintaining that. So by doing that with a console, aren't you alienating the one thing that those people like? The weird thing as well is you've got the whole thing with Universal Windows platform, where Xbox games being available on PC. So if they're making all their Xbox exclusives available on PC, even though they run terribly, like Gears of War Ultimate Edition, that runs at like 7 frames, on the Universal platform is terrible, but that's a different story. If they're making all their exclusives on PC and they're saying you can keep upgrading your Xbox and have that, you're like, well, what's the point of me upgrading my Xbox? I can get your games on my PC and do that instead. It's weird. It's the same thing with the Steam machines. I don't know what audience this appeals to, because the people who are constantly upgrading their people who are constantly upgrading their like systems are the kind of people who are like PC gamers. The people who like to buy one system for a long time, for the long term, and not have to worry about it again, are the people who buy the consoles. And that's the thing with the Steam machine. You're like, well, it's weaker. It's not as strong. Like, it's not as powerful. It's probably a lot more expensive way of doing things, and it doesn't cater to any kind of new audience. Maybe there is a new audience there. I don't know. It just seems very niche to me, like the amount of people that would go, I want to have a more powerful console that I can constantly upgrade, that can play games and keep up to date with PCs. Well, then just buy a PC.
Yeah,
that's what they're explaining. I want a system that I can constantly get more powerful parts and constantly upgrade. But you're explaining a PC.
So, unless they're kind of getting worried about the constant sort of PlayStation, because you still see it now, like, PlayStation 4 won this month's console sales figures, and they're like, oh shit. I mean, the PlayStation 4 is in some cases, or most cases, outperforming the Xbox One in like frame rate and resolution. So maybe if we can offer hardware upgrades and upgrade over a long period of time, then by the time the PlayStation 5 comes out, we'll just have the ball rolling already and be able to just instantly beat them. So maybe that's like the way that they're going down. Like they're trying to play the long game with the PlayStation 4 and maybe even the NX, depending on if that's going to be some sort of super system.
I mean,
But like you're saying, it kind of alienates the type of people that would buy a console because they want one thing, or generally, like I'm not trying to put everyone into a stereotype area, but generally it's one system will last me the entire generation. I don't need to worry about it unless it like breaks or something. It blows up.
Red Ring of Death.
Yeah.
But then again, they do. Interestingly, they do release the slim versions of the game, like he was mentioning. You have like you had the Xbox. It was actually the Xbox 360S, I think, which was like a slimmer version. I actually bought one, and it was actually more reliable. Like I think they didn't really Red Ring of Death at all. Like it was impossible by that point to even happen. But I think they could. That being said, I do think they could get away with doing it once per generation, like another new one in between, because they've done that before with like the PS2, the PS3s have multiple iterations, so they could do it, but not as frequently as they may have for PCs, where you have new parts. They could probably do it once, where they go, okay, the Xbox One has been out for 3-4 years. We're going to have a new system that's slimmer and slightly more powerful, and there's a setting only on those new versions. Is there is like when you put the disc in, it recognizes the system you're using is the new one and actually plays it at a better fidelity or smoother or something like that. But yeah, probably once they could get away with it, and sort of, because I think the Xbox One needs its biggest issue, I think, at this point is, okay, PS4 is always going to be in a lead because they got off to a good start, they got a good launch. It's the same way how PS3 had a rocky launch, Xbox 360 benefited from that. Launch is really important for your console. The problem they're having now, and this is coming from somebody who's been a big Xbox fan in the past, the UI, it's all appearance. The UI, the console's UI is so messy and terrible, and the actual system itself looks like a huge VCR that I forgot to chuck out. It needs sort of some kind of... Why can't they make the consoles look really cool, like some PCs? Like my PC case looks awesome. Why can't they make the consoles look... Why do they have to make it like a box? Make it look some, interesting shape.
At least they kind of tried a bit with the PS4.
Yeah,
it's still a box with just some slanted sides.
Yeah, but it looks a bit more, and it has like the blue light going down. It looks a bit more stylish. The Wii U, it's completely different shapes to the other ones. It's like
the Wii U is just a box of curved edges.
Yeah, but compared to like, look at the old systems we used to have. Like look at the Wii. Look at the GameCube. Look at the Nintendo 64. All the iterations for the old consoles.
It's probably a bad choice. It's just a box.
But look at all. No, but I'm using it as like comparison for all the different consoles. They were all loads. They were really different back then, and now it's like black box
with shiny and matte parts.
Yeah, we need some of that back. But yeah. Anyway, I guess to summarise on this topic, does this make you, if they did this or went down this route to some extent, is there a possibility that it would make you go more invested in consoles or go, maybe I should buy an Xbox One? It doesn't at all. If they went, oh, here's a more powerful Xbox that can run games better, it wouldn't entice you at all.
No.
Is it in the same sort of like ballpark as the Steam machines for you, or is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's, yeah.
I think it's in the same area.
It's the same thing of, you have the consoles and the PC, and then you have it all in the middle, all these ones of like, why would you buy that? You're either on this side or that side. It's like you don't...
It's like they're trying to climb the fence, but they're getting stuck in the minefield in between the two fences. I don't know. That's a really weird analogy.
That's a really weird... I don't think it would like... Yeah, I don't think I would want... I mean, I own an Xbox One now, but it barely gets used anymore because I just don't like the UI. I've got my new PC now, and I'm playing games on there, and I just look at it and I go, well, I don't know. I'm just going to upgrade my PC now, and I'm just going to probably play more games on there. And if I know that I can buy a game on my PC and play it better on there, and I know that I can get Xbox's games, like Rise of the Tomb Raider, that was an Xbox timed exclusive, if I know I can get that on PC, I'll just get it on there instead. And it doesn't really much entice me anymore to sort of go to consoles unless something is a pure exclusive, like Halo 5, or on the PS4, where you've got Ratchet and Clank coming out next month, where that's only on that console. That's the kind of things that do. And that's why it concerns me that they're making all their things on PC as well, is that you need something to entice the Xbox players. Otherwise, you're merging Xbox and PC so much that people will go, well, you've actually single-handedly made the Xbox redundant when you were trying to do the complete opposite.
Yeah, trying to make it appeal more, but in actual fact, unless they're trying to really just get out of it.
The Xbox are trying to make it die.
We just want PCs. Let's try and make them as PC as possible.
Yeah.
It just doesn't...
It's a mess. It is. Microsoft are weird, is what I take from that. They do some odd things. They have odd naming conventions. I don't know what's going on there, but it probably doesn't excite me very much.
No.
But yeah, no, do let us know. If I would be really fascinated if one of our listeners is, interested in this at all. This change is like a deal breaker, maybe. Would be interesting to see, because then we know. It's the same when we were talking about Steam machines before, about if there's an audience for that, because we sort of want to know. Like, it's okay if that excites you and you want that, but we're trying to understand why. So
why would you do it?
But yeah, I think that's a good way to summarize. So this has been all for this episode of The Spawn Point. Before we go, let's get those plugs out of the way.
Plugs!
So, first of all, Twitch. We are always streaming on... We're not always streaming on Twitch, but we're... Imagine that, 24/7. We're streaming every week on Twitch. On Tuesday... For next Tuesday, I'm streaming The Division. After that, from future weeks, I don't know if I am, because I feel like I've done most of the game outside of the stream time, that there's not going to be so much to... So for next week, I say next week, people are listening to it now, there would have been a Division stream. After
Yesterday.
Yesterday. For the future, though, I'm still going to be streaming on Tuesdays. It's just the game may change depending on what's out. Also, I think it'd be a good opportunity in May, because Overwatch has got an open beta. That's another thing that happened. So we could possibly stream that in May sometime, that weekend or whenever that's happening, towards the beginning of that month.
3rd of May is the closed open beta. Then it's the
5th to 8th if you don't pre-order.
Yeah,
I think so. That's always a possibility. But so Tuesdays you've got me streaming. On Wednesdays, Andy is continuing Fallout 4 with his Valentine, Nick Valentine, and then on Fridays it's the mystery stream.
Ooh,
but it's not much of a mystery, because I've already planned what I'm going to do for the Friday, but I'm not going to say again in case people don't catch it. But yeah, so then, don't know what to expect on Friday. And then, so Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, that's Twitch. YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Sometimes we post some of our live stream highlights on there. And obviously we have the video version of the podcast. Sometimes you get to see us do some weird things like, on camera. That sounds really wrong. But, like I don't know. We get to see our faces. We do weird things. Maybe you're missing out on all sorts of things. If you like to look at video versions of podcasts, then our YouTube is our place to go. Also, we have Twitter. The Vetri Gaming Twitter is twitter.com/VetriGaming. My personal one is @VetriMattJ. That's JOY, not the letter. Andy's is
at RYEW101, RYE101. Go there, click subscribe.
Facebook.com is VetriGaming Network. So Facebook.com/VetriGaming Network. And that is all the plugs, I believe. I haven't forgotten something, have I? iTunes. Go
iTunes,
there. Go
Twitch.
to iTunes. Go look at all the things on our YouTube. Look, just click all the links. Go to all the places, and just love us.
Just love us. Instagram.com/VetriGaming. That's not a real thing, but I'm plugging it anyway.
Yeah. So this has been episode 55 of the Spawn Point podcast. Until the next episode, or until the next live stream, we will see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.